Alright, Animal fans, this is your host Alex Lexus with guest co-host Nelson Rios of Fighting Game League. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is how now the DLC is going to somehow affect the fighting game tournament scene. Now, those of you who saw my episode earlier today, it was discussing how the 12 downloadable characters are going to really kind of throw a wrench and how we throw tournaments like the E-Spot, King of the Couch Nation, and what have you. So I wanted to give Nelson a chance to kind of chime in on what I touched on earlier. So Nelson, you got the floor.
All right, basically what Alex was trying to say is how can we get this DLC content provided to all these tournaments, knowing that one, it's going to be very costly, and two, not many people play on the PlayStation 3. As you all know, with the PlayStation 3, which you should know by now, you're able to migrate accounts and transfer DLC content on the fly with multiple consoles without having any stretch of problem. With the Xbox, it's a little harder because everything has to go through coding. So without that process of in profiles, exactly. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad, but if you're a part of the modding community, you guys got it with the 360, no problem. But the PS3 makes it very easy and very accessible just to bring a USB slot, boop boop, done. And there you go, solves your problem.
So, yeah, I mean, that is pretty much the Xbox side of things just got shot on all over the place. I mean, like exploding diarrhea stuff. I mean, damn. Because, excuse me. If you think about it, it's like, okay, now, I mean, you can put content from one 360 to the next, but that gamer profile has to be logged in.
Right.
So, like, is that Microsoft's fault, or is that Capcom's fault? Because it's like you have to balance it out. You look at it, Capcom shouldn't have done this DLC stuff for characters. It's not a good thing. It's now, like I was saying earlier, some tournament people may have the DLC. Let's say they're using 360. Some may have it, others may not have it. What if somebody's maining Brian Fury or maining Cody and a particular tournament or event doesn't have those characters? What's going to happen there? You know what I mean? What do you think about that, Nelson?
Well, definitely it's going to affect a lot of the people who's been relying on the 12 DLC characters and not the default roster that everyone's been prompt with in the beginning. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's Capcom's fault on the Xbox purpose of not being able to migrate the data. It's basically Microsoft's fault to prevent piracy and also for people not getting away with free shit. But on the other hand, Sony, Sony kind of let people know, you can do it, you can migrate to other PS3s, but there's a limit. You can only do it at least 6 times as it was back then. Now it's only 3. But that's only considering to accounts, not content. So.
Oh, okay. Now, you see, here's the thing, though. If you can still migrate content from one PS3 to the next, why isn't Capcom after Sony about that? Because if you look at it, per console, people sharing the content like that, Capcom's losing the money, not Sony.
You're right.
And then it's like, Sony is cashing in on this. It's like, hey, we can do something that the other system is not allowing to do. So at Capcom's expense, we're going to push more units, we're going to sell more copies. But when it comes to being able to utilize that, that's kind of wrong. And I don't understand why Capcom is not getting on Sony's ass about that. What do you think?
Honestly, I really don't know why they're not doing that either, because anytime when Microsoft or Xbox does something wrong, they're like, Capcom's like, boom, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. But I don't know, I think it's because like either one, they have like special partnership with Sony or something like that, or they're just like, PS3 is not really doing so well, so it's really being overlooked when it comes to fighters. But as of recently, a lot of fighters has been making it into the tournament scene due to the accessibility of controller switching, which is actually far greater than the Xboxes. So
yes, that is very true. So hopefully on the next Xbox system that they'll try to incorporate that, because when Cross Assault was on, when people were just switching their controllers, they had their stuff plugged in, all they had to do was reassign controller 1, 2, and 3 or whatever.
exactly.
So that's something that maybe Microsoft in the next generation can try to home in on. But still, the way that Capcom has done the DLC character stuff, it makes it very hard to run tournaments now because it's like, especially for 360, you gotta pay for everything on every console, and I'm not willing to bring my USB with my content or whatever and put the codes on a bunch of other systems. And I mean, it is just not. It wasn't smart. It just was not smart. They should have just gone the route that Harada went with, no DLC characters, but DLC for vanity. I mean, that is definitely the better route to go. I mean, you see with all these outfits and costume swaps, that I'm not too crazy pissed about. I mean, hey, it's just extra stuff. But when it comes to characters, that's really like a big thing that's going to affect the balance of the game. It's just, man, come on. But I don't know. Let's wrap this particular topic up because we're going right into the next one, which is going to be, we're going to discuss the patching that's coming out on Tuesday for Street Fighter X Tekken, which is going to correct Kazuya's restand, Infinite. Juri, she's getting nerfed. She's getting +5 and +10 on some of her attacks. I know Rufus is getting nerfed and what have you, but here's the problem I have with this, Nelson. Why are you patching a game and balancing before the full roster is out? Because if you think about it, let's say after all this patching that they do before the final roster is out, right? And then now there's another problem, then you're going to have to go back and patch it again. You know what I mean? This is another problem why they shouldn't have done the DLC characters like that. They should have just had the roster outside the gate. And if there were any problems, you can balance the whole roster at one time. I don't know if I make any sense with that, but what do you think, Nelson?
No, you actually have a point. I mean, it makes no sense. Why would you try to, like, fix something now if a problem later on may persist on? I mean, the infinites, yeah, it is a problem to some people to some degree, but honestly, I play with Kazuya. I don't do the infinite because it's, to me, honestly, it's not that, like, it's not manageable in a real fight. Like, what were you gonna do? Just stall the fight and win over time? Like, that's honestly stupid. And plus, it's easy to dodge all the infinites. And the only infinite that takes actually true skill is Zayu's, which is a one-frame link infinite. Everyone else is just dumb. And Kazuya's the kickflip thing, where he basically spins you in the air and you continuously roll, that could get patched out and get the fuck out. I can care less about Jin, because he's... That was cheap as fuck. But Kazuya, Zayu, that doesn't really bother me, you know. But you have a point. Wait till everything is out and set in stone with all these characters. Then take another look at it and then replan the formula to do everything in one shot instead of just making patch 1.1, 1.2. We don't need consecutive patches. It's ridiculous.
But here's another thing. That brings up another theory. If they're willing to patch it now, that means that they're already testing it on the other characters. So that's probably why they're going ahead and doing this now. But it's just, I'm telling you, they already opened a can of worms. And I think something's going to happen. It's going to need to be rebalanced anyway. Because those other characters aren't out. People are going to find things when they do get released. I mean, I bet you Brian Fury is going to have some power boxing, infinite Cody guy. I'm telling you, they're going to find something. And here's the problem. The people who they have playtesting the games, I think they all need to be fired. Those motherfuckers need to be fired and get some real hardcore guys, those guys who do combo videos and find all these crazy things, get them in there. And have them play the game and have them patch out all the bullshit. That's why I'm loving Skullgirls right now. That game right now is probably the most complete, most perfect fighter you can get. Even though the roster is lacking, that game is solid, straight solid. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I do agree with you on the fact that, like, they do need people to, like, further test this instead of just getting, like, some crappy-ass dude that works in corporate for Capcom and, like, do these beta testings. even though I heard they try to get like some top players to do it. But they actually should just get Error. They should just get Desk, because those are the two top people in the world that do frame by frame combo videos with the command prompt system by using the computer, and they can do this off a skill too. So that's definitely recommended. I'm surprised Capcom didn't like issue them out in the first place. And with Skullgirls right now, yeah, it's somewhat taking the ease off of Street Fighter Cross Tekken when it comes to like stressful and like disappointment right now. But Skullgirls, I feel that once it gets fully uploaded with more characters and more stages, that game is gonna be, whew, it's gonna be something.
Now, before we wrap up, is Skullgirls going to be at EVO this year?
Yes. Yes, it will. I don't know
Really?
when or where in EVO, but it's definitely going to be in EVO. And for the Street Fighter Cross Tekken, it's not 1v1, it's 2-on-2.
He's 2-on-2. Yep. That's. I mean, it's gonna change the dynamic of things and how people play, because there's gonna be times where you want to do a certain combo that you can do solo, but being that you're working with someone else, that's gonna be rather interesting. I want to see if people get salty and like, hey, you cost me the match, you didn't tag me in, or you're doing Kobe Bryant, you're ball hogging and all that. And I mean, that's gonna be an interesting thing, but. Before we wrap up, NMO fans, a couple of announcements. We're still trying to push for events. Considering what we were discussing, we're still going to drive on. We're going to find a way to make sure that we provide an event to you. I'm still in negotiations with the Jersey City location, and hopefully we'll get something out there for you. I'll give out passes to Comic-Con and, part of the pot once we get everything organized. So if you want to get involved, make sure you contact me or Nelson Rios, co-host of this show, to get you involved, okay? But, also support Fighting Game League. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Nelson, you got any announcements before we sign off?
Well, basically, like I said, guys, remember, we're still doing the 5v5 Street Fighter tournament. I know I haven't been putting out much information, but I guess I'll let you guys know a little bit more. I am still looking for a couple more people. So far I have 5. I need about 5 more. Has to be in the tri-state area, because once we promote the event online, because we want to do like a pre-show. We want people to come online, show off their talent and skill, and on the day of the event, once my partner tells me the day, we want everyone to come into the Brooklyn area to be recorded live in studio, to be broadcasted on live television. So that will be put out shortly. So.
Okay, and then we'll be conducting interviews like we did for the Super Street Fighter 4 launch event a few years ago. So those of you who came, we had Ryder, Dizzy, Marlon Pie, a couple of guys came out there, KDZ. I mean, some big names came, so, hopefully they can come out to that event, and we can, keep the fighting game community strong on the East Coast and, further push because we can't let the West Coast take everything, you know what I mean? So we have to take pride in our coast and try to come together as a community. All right, so that's all I got. Nelson, any final words before we log off?
Honestly, like I said, just support, like I said, NMO, support us, Fighting Game League. Also, if you guys can, donations or even following the channels will help us out the most, because if we can get partnership, I promise you I'll give back to the community with prizes and giveaways. That's a promise.
Yes. And to touch on that before we go, everything with how the show has been migrating and mutating into something great and having a blessing in Nelson Rios helping us. As you've seen, NMO's been on for 6 years, and if you go back to episode 1 and what we're doing right now, completely different. And that all comes from your support and the support of other people networking. So we thank you guys for everything, and we'll see you next time on the NMO Music and Arcade Show and the FGC and Fighting Game League broadcast. See you next time.